All right, so today we're going to do a deep dive into something pretty interesting.
Uh,
Um, we're talking about Microsoft and OpenAI,
okay.
and specifically how their relationship is evolving, especially with Microsoft 365 Copilot.
Yeah.
We've got some recent articles here from Reuters and Benzinga, both kind of hinting at some stuff going on behind the scenes.
Right.
And of course, we've got Microsoft's own statements about this. So this is about more than just, tech specs. This is about
Yeah.
strategy,
Mm.
competition,
Yeah.
and maybe even a little bit of, corporate drama.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, it's fascinating to look back. Just a year ago, Microsoft was so gung-ho about OpenAI's technology
Right.
and, GPT-4 specifically to power Copilot.
Yeah.
That was a huge selling point back in March 2023.
Oh, absolutely. It was like the big thing. But now it seems like things are changing.
Yeah.
At least that's what these articles are suggesting.
Oh.
So what's the scoop? What's going on here?
Well, it seems like Microsoft is really working to reduce their reliance on OpenAI for 365 Copilot.
Okay, now hold on. Isn't OpenAI like still the biggest name in AI?
Mm-hmm.
Why would Microsoft be, shifting gears like this?
Well, there are a few reasons, and they make a lot of sense from, a business perspective.
Okay.
First, there's the cost factor.
Okay.
OpenAI's models are reportedly expensive to run, which of course affects 365 Copilot's pricing.
Yeah.
And that could make it harder for businesses to adopt it widely.
Right.
So Microsoft wants to cut costs and then potentially pass those savings on to customers.
So for us, that would mean like lower subscription fees for 365,
Exactly.
which would be awesome. Are there other reasons, though?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Speed is a big one.
Okay.
Enterprise users need AI tools that are fast and responsive.
Yeah, nobody wants to wait.
Right, exactly.
Mm.
So Microsoft is trying to make 365 Copilot snappier, which may mean finding models that can deliver results faster.
So faster response times, which means we can get more done.
Yeah.
I like where this is going.
And then finally, we can't ignore control. By diversifying its AI model sources, Microsoft gets more control over 365 Copilot's development.
Right.
It reduces their dependence on just one partner, even if it is a partner as close as OpenAI.
Makes sense. It's like not putting all your eggs in one basket,
Right.
even if it's a very high-tech basket.
Right.
So how are they doing this? Are they like building their own version of GPT-4 in secret or what?
Well, they're taking a kind of a multi-pronged approach.
Okay.
They are developing smaller AI models in-house, like 5.4, much like they've done with GitHub, which now uses models from Anthropic and Google alongside OpenAI's.
Wow. So they're building their own models, they're tweaking existing ones, and they might even be bringing in models from OpenAI's competitors.
Right.
That's a pretty big shift. So if they're doing all this behind the scenes, what's Microsoft saying publicly about all of this?
Well, publicly, they're kind of walking a tightrope.
Go.
They're still saying that OpenAI is a key partner, especially for what they call frontier models of AI, the most cutting edge.
Yeah.
But they also acknowledge using a mix of OpenAI and in-house models, choosing what they say is the best fit for each specific product.
So they're kind of acknowledging the change without making it seem like they're like ditching OpenAI.
Right.
Pretty clever.
Yeah.
But how is 365 Copilot actually performing out in the real world?
Yeah.
Is it living up to all the hype?
Well, that's where things get a bit more complicated. It's still pretty early. And Microsoft hasn't released specific sales figures, so it's hard to tell exactly how widely it's been adopted.
So we don't know if companies are like rushing to adopt it yet.
Right. We don't have the full picture yet.
Gotcha.
There have been some reports of hesitancy, though,
Okay.
particularly from some larger companies.
Interesting.
Some say the pricing is a bit steep for them, and others just aren't sure how to integrate Copilot into their workflow effectively.
Yeah. Even if you have a fantastic new tool, getting a whole company on board and figuring out how to actually use it,
Right.
it takes time.
Absolutely. It does. And then there are also questions about whether Copilot is actually delivering on its promises to boost productivity and efficiency. A recent Gartner survey found that a lot of IT companies are still just trying out 365 Copilot. They haven't fully committed to it yet.
So some companies are a little hesitant, but are there signs that Copilot is gaining traction?
Yeah, definitely. There are analyst reports, like the recent one from BNP Paribas Exane, that suggest adoption is actually speeding up. They predict that Microsoft could have over 10 million paid users for 365 Copilot by the end of this year.
10 million. That's huge.
It is. And Microsoft itself claims that 70% of Fortune 500 companies are already using Copilot in at least some way.
Okay, so we've got some mixed signals here. Microsoft is diversifying its AI sources for Copilot, trying to get more control and make it more cost-effective. But Copilot itself is still finding its place in the market, facing some obstacles, but also showing signs of growth.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean in the grand scheme of things?
Well, if we zoom out and look at the bigger picture, this whole situation is actually reflecting some major trends that are happening across the entire AI landscape.
Okay.
And that's something we'll dig into in part 2 of this deep dive.
I can't wait.
Yeah, should be good. Picking up where we left off, this isn't really just about Microsoft and OpenAI.
Right.
This situation, I think, really highlights a growing kind of tension that businesses are facing as AI becomes a bigger and bigger part of their work.
Okay, I'm all ears. What kind of tension are we talking about?
Well, it's this balancing act between, wanting the most innovative, cutting-edge AI out there and what's actually practical for a business to use,
Right.
Companies are drawn to these really powerful models like what OpenAI is known for
Right.
because they have the potential to, completely revolutionize industries.
Yeah. Those are the models that are promising to, automate all these tasks and create crazy new products and maybe even solve world hunger.
Yeah, maybe not world hunger just yet.
Not yet.
But you get the idea. The problem is that those bleeding edge models,
Right.
they're expensive to run. They need specialized expertise to actually implement them. And they might not always be the most practical solution for, day-to-day business needs.
So you're saying that sometimes a smaller, more targeted AI model might actually be a better fit,
Exactly.
even if it doesn't have like the same wow factor as something like GPT-4.
Exactly. That's why we're seeing this trend toward what you might call a more diverse AI portfolio.
Yep.
Companies like Microsoft are realizing that they need a mix of models, each one suited for a particular task or challenge.
It's kind of like building a toolkit.
Yeah,
You wouldn't use a sledgehammer to hang a picture frame.
right.
You'd use the right tool for the job.
Exactly. A perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And in this case, the toolkit is full of all these different AI models.
Right.
Some might be huge and powerful, good for, complex tasks like analyzing mountains of data or, generating some creative text, writing poems and stuff.
Right.
Others might be smaller and more specialized, designed for a very specific function within a product, like 365 Copilot.
That makes me think about this one time when I was trying to assemble a bookshelf, and all I had was a hammer.
Okay.
And let's just say it did not go well.
Yeah.
I definitely learned my lesson about using the right tool for the job, whether it's for DIY projects or AI.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So applying that to businesses, we see them starting to be more strategic about their AI choices.
Right.
They're looking beyond just, the most hyped up options and really thinking about what actually fits their needs.
So it lets them balance cost, performance, and control.
Right.
It lets them pick the AI model that makes sense for a certain task and think about efficiency, how much value they're getting for their investment.
Exactly. Which leads to an interesting question.
Okay.
Where does this leave OpenAI?
Right.
Are they in danger of becoming irrelevant if companies start relying less on their models?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still the cool kid in AI, right?
They absolutely are. Yeah, OpenAI still has huge brand recognition, and they are seen as the innovator in this space.
Right.
Their large language models like GPT-4 are still considered some of the most advanced in the world.
So they'll likely continue to play a big role in research and development,
Right.
pushing those boundaries of what AI can do.
Exactly. But they are also facing more and more competition from companies like Google, Anthropic,
Right.
even Microsoft, who are all investing heavily in developing their own powerful AI models.
So it's not just about OpenAI anymore.
Yeah.
The AI landscape is getting a lot more crowded.
It is, yeah. And I think this competition is ultimately a good thing for the AI industry as a whole.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to push back a little there.
Mhm.
That's assuming it remains fair competition, right? What if one player gets too big, too dominant? Wouldn't that stifle innovation?
That's a valid concern. Yeah, we definitely need to be mindful of that as this technology keeps evolving.
Right.
The ideal scenario, I think, is one where we have multiple players, each one pushing the others to innovate and improve.
Right.
But there's always that risk of consolidation and,
Yeah.
One company becoming too powerful.
So it's good to have options, but we have to make sure that competition stays healthy and that no single entity, gains too much control over the future of AI.
Absolutely. And that brings up another really important question. What does all this mean for access to AI?
Right.
Will smaller businesses and individuals be able to benefit from these advancements?
Yeah.
Or will it mainly be these big players who can afford to, build their own AI portfolios.
Yeah, that's the big question. Is AI going to be this exclusive club for giant corporations,
Yeah.
or can everyone get a seat at the table?
That's the million-dollar question. And honestly, the answer isn't really clear yet.
Mm-hmm.
There is a real risk that AI could become very stratified,
Right.
where the most powerful tools are only available to a select few.
Which would be a huge problem, right? It would just widen the gap between the haves and have-nots
Exactly.
and limit AI's potential to actually benefit everyone.
Exactly. But there is a counter movement emerging, which gives me some hope. The open source AI movement.
Right, where people are working to make these AI models and tools freely available for anyone to use and even modify.
Yeah, exactly. The open source movement has this potential to democratize AI,
Okay.
allowing, individuals and the smaller organizations to actually use this power.
Right.
Without needing massive resources.
Right.
It's still early days, but there are some impressive open source AI models out there that are showing a lot of promise.
So it's kind of like this race between two different forces, the consolidation of AI power among those large corporations
Right.
versus the democratization of AI through these open source efforts.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And which force wins out will really have a huge impact on the future of AI.
Right.
It's something we need to watch very closely.
Yeah, it sounds like there are some serious stakes involved here. It's not just about cool technology.
Yep.
It's about access, control, who benefits from this whole AI revolution.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to Microsoft.
Okay.
They're trying to kind of carve out their own path in this evolving AI landscape. But are they on the right track?
Right.
What are those potential risks and challenges that they face?
Let's unpack all of that in part 3 of this deep dive. Okay, so we're back and ready to finish up this deep dive into Microsoft and their AI strategy. We talked about them moving away from relying only on OpenAI, and you mentioned some risks that might come with that approach. What are some of those risks?
Well, one of the biggest ones is that Microsoft could be spreading themselves a little too thin. They're developing their own models, they're customizing existing ones, and they might even be integrating third-party models. That's a lot to handle.
Yeah, it sounds like it could get a little chaotic.
Right. It's like herding cats, but the cats are all these brilliant AI developers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So is the concern that they lose focus and fall behind in the AI race? What else should we be looking out for?
Well, another risk is that Microsoft might overestimate their own capabilities. Building and maintaining these really advanced AI models, it's incredibly complex and needs a ton of resources. You need the best people, massive computing power, and you're constantly refining things. Even with all the resources Microsoft has, it's a huge undertaking.
It's like deciding to build your own rocket ship when there are already companies like SpaceX launching satellites into orbit. It's not impossible, but it's definitely ambitious.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And then there's also the risk of alienating OpenAI in the process.
Oh, right.
Even though Microsoft is saying they want to keep a good relationship, this move towards independence could create some tension. OpenAI might start to see Microsoft more as a competitor than a partner.
And that wouldn't really be great for Microsoft. OpenAI is still a leader in generative AI. Losing that close relationship could hurt their access to the latest models and the top people working in AI.
Absolutely. It's a delicate balancing act for Microsoft. They need to branch out and get more diverse AI resources, but without messing up that valuable partnership with OpenAI.
Okay, so we've got the risks, losing focus, maybe getting in over their heads, and potentially causing problems with OpenAI. But what about the other side of that? What are the possible benefits for Microsoft if they manage to pull this off?
Well, if they can actually build a really solid and diverse AI portfolio, it could give them a huge edge over their competitors. They could offer businesses a wider range of AI solutions, customized for different needs and budgets.
So they'd be like a one-stop shop for everything AI.
Exactly. And that could make them the top provider for enterprise AI, which would boost their cloud business and solidify their position as the leader in that whole AI-powered workplace space.
So big potential rewards, but also some serious risks to consider. What should we be keeping an eye on in the next few months to see how this all plays out?
I'd say there are a few key things. First, pay attention to how Microsoft talks about 365 Copilot in their marketing. Do they still emphasize OpenAI, or do they start talking more about their own in-house models?
So the marketing language could tell us a lot about their strategy. What else should we be watching?
Second, look at the partnerships they announce. Are they teaming up with other AI companies? Are they putting more money into open source AI projects? Those are good signs.
Okay, and lastly,
Keep an eye on how 365 Copilot itself is doing. Is it gaming more users? Are they rolling out new features that use their own AI models? At the end of the day, how well Copilot does will be the real test of whether this whole strategy is working.
this has been a really interesting discussion. The story of Microsoft and OpenAI, it's full of these strategic moves and complicated partnerships, and the stakes are really high. It's a lot more than just tech company makes cool new AI.
I agree, it really is. This whole situation shows us that we're still in the very beginning stages of this AI revolution. Everything is changing so fast, and even the biggest players are still figuring things out as they go.
Yeah, it reminds me of the early days of the internet. So much potential, a little bit of chaos, and no one really knew what the future would hold.
Definitely. I see the parallels too. It makes you wonder, as Microsoft and these other tech giants keep going down this road, are they going to build walls around their AI, or will they choose to be more open and encourage collaboration and sharing progress?
That's a really important question, and one we'll probably be thinking about for a long time. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a really eye-opening look at how Microsoft's AI approach is changing, and it gives us a lot to consider as we head into the future of AI. Thanks for listening.